Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Rolling, and I am Vice President of Patron and Community Engagement with the Santa Barbara Symphony. And I'm here to have a conversation today with our Artistic and Music Director, Nir Kabaretti, and our President and CEO, Kathryn Martin. Today, we are going to talk about a new and exciting initiative that you may have already heard about, which we're calling Crescendo. And Crescendo is this really interesting framework that we're putting together. It's a 5-year visionary framework of operational and financial support that will allow Nir to develop a 5-year artistic framework. And so today, Kathryn is going to talk a little bit about how we got here, why we've decided to launch Crescendo now. And Nir is going to share more about his artistic vision. And we're hoping to answer any of your questions that you might have about Crescendo and joining us in pledging your support for 5 years. So Kathryn, I'm going to hand it over to you. Why now? Why, as we're coming out of a pandemic, hopefully coming out of a pandemic, have you decided to launch this organization on an exploration into the next 5 years?
Yes, let's hope we are coming out of the pandemic. It feels like that today. I think in a nutshell, the Santa Barbara Symphony is, for me, one of the most dynamic professional orchestras I have ever seen and heard. Many reasons for that, but really, truly under Nir's leadership, the artistic caliber is high, really high. And as a result, that means that we can connect to the community in ways that are uniquely ours. And Nir has so many ideas on how to connect to our community. But the problem is, there's a problem, is that we weren't fully taking advantage of those ideas and Nir's vast network of colleagues around the world. And again, for many reasons. Like many orchestras prior to the pandemic, the symphony had what I like to call pre-existing conditions. And they were really tough. They are really tough. We're having to address them now during COVID, when we've almost lost, we've lost so much, haven't we? But, a number that sticks out to me is $900,000 in ticket revenue, but there's lots more. The symphony hadn't had a multi-year operational framework to leverage and support all of Nir's artistic ideas. So as many people know who are listening, artistic collaborations and projects take more than 1 year to plan when we're talking about at this level. They take more than a year to plan. Also, as our supporters know, to run a symphony, 60% of our income must come from contributed income. And so with a budget of about 2.53 million, that means that each year we have to raise about 1.8 million from foundations, yes, corporations, government, we've had a lot of support this year from government, but always the majority comes from individuals. And each year, this incredible organization has had to start from zero. Well, not actually zero, because of some very visionary thinkers, we have the Heritage Society, and that through our endowment gives us every year 250,000. But for an organization this size, we need much more. So thinking and planning and budgeting only 12 months at a time for an organization our size and our caliber is just not strategic. So I had to move the symphony into a multi-year budgeting. And for this organization, for where we are, for the pre-existing conditions, for coming out of a pandemic, Nir, Janet, and I all agreed that a 5-year framework is what we needed. And part of that framework is then to align donor support with the 5-year framework. And you mentioned Crescendo. So this is the program that we're talking about. It's a way to do that. It's a way for us to create predictable and budgetable a financial foundation so that Nir can bring his artistic vision to life. So this group of very strategic and visionary donors are each making 5-year pledges of support, and that's going to give us that foundational starting point each year to build upon. And it also, to be honest, gives us, is already giving us the confidence and the momentum we need. So why now? Because we haven't, again, why now? All the things I mentioned, And also maybe unique to us or not unique to us is that the person in my role, in the CEO role, has not been consistent for lots of variety of reasons. But having consistent leadership on all three legs of the stool, management, artistic, governance, is critical when we're moving an organization to a new chapter. I had not originally planned to say yes to this role, but I did so because, to be honest, I knew that it was, I was going to be able to make a difference. It's one of the most critical moments, I would say, full of transformational possibilities and big challenges, I think, that the symphony will ever face right now in the 67-year history. So lots of opportunity. And I knew that with Nir, with Janet Garufas, many of you know Janet. You know, she's one of the most successful businesswomen in the community. She's got a track record of philanthropy. She has a passion for the impact of a symphony orchestra and our symphony orchestra in the community. When I knew that the three of us, all three legs of the stool, would agree to sign up and make a commitment for 5 years, I knew we had a shot. I knew we had a shot at this. And what I'm learning, what I've learned since May, is that the community, which maybe should be a fourth leg of the stool, the community support, really, I would say an outpouring of support this whole pandemic year. You know, I talk about the letters that we get or the emails saying, keep going, keep doing, we appreciate you, from the parents of our music education students to our musicians. So there is something there, there is something here. And I think we'll talk about more about the details of Crescendo, but to answer your question, those are the whys of why now and 5-year framework to support Nir.
Yeah, and you know, I know, Kathryn, you and I joined this organization during a pandemic, and that might have been a question for a lot of people, but it has been that outpouring of support from the community, from our supporters. There's so much excitement and momentum, and that's because the symphony has been delivering concerts to the community during the pandemic when we've needed music the most. And so Nir, I know you are at the heart of our artistic vision. Share with us a little bit about what you're seeing for the coming 5 years and what's exciting you.
Well, I will start with totally in agreement with what you both said, how the support is felt, this beautiful feedback from the community, you know, through mails, through text, people I bump into at Trader Joe's, you know, and with masks, we still recognize each other. And to see that we brought joy to this community. And you know, this year, last year, was really, I think, an historic turning point in the music industry in general. It's not only the pandemic that forced us, of course, to find new ways to deliver music. We never did any videoing before that. All of a sudden, we become really kind of experts. But it's not only the pandemic. There were so many other things that happened in the last year, universal level, but of course, mainly in the USA. And that inspired us to be even more determined and more, and one says, powerful in what we do to show how music and our music education have the power to improve our society. And, you know, there's a lot of talk globally now about diversity, about being inclusive, about equity. And I think in our industry, of course, if I look at our artistic offering, if I look at our students, if I look at our musicians, our teachers, our guest artists, you will find a lot of the diversity that we can all be proud of. And that's the seed for a better society. And you know, I'm thrilled to be part of that, and planning five years ahead is a crucial element to have this diversity. And I want to say that the artistic caliber needs a lot of attention of years ahead. And Kathryn mentioned that. You know, when we talk about a new piece that we are performing, right? A composer is writing, this takes months of writing. We cannot just say, okay, in this upcoming June, I would like to perform a new piece. You need to think 2-3 years ahead of that to, of course, have an agreement with the composer, with the guest artist. That's what we're going to do in 3 years. You put the seeds there, and then it is a process until it comes to the real thing, which is the concert itself. It cannot be on a short notice. And of course, it's the artistic process, but it's also the financial process that is needed. And as a music director, you want to make sure that I can plan now a project that I know it's very expensive, but also logistically wise needs a lot of preparation. I cannot do it in 6 months or 8 months, but maybe in 3 or 4 years we could do that. And so that is why this 5 years of plan is so important. And I also want to say something else, that we concentrated ourselves on our offering as a symphony, artistic offering, serving a really small percentage of our community. And the 5 years program allows us to expand our audience, meaning that every year we will add a new idea, a new program, a new concert ideas that can reach out beyond the core audience who grew up or love classical music. What we call classical, it's a terminology that is a little bit different today. And we have a huge responsibility. People may not realize that from Camarillo until the Bay Area, we are the only professional symphony orchestra. That's what, 300, 350 miles of land, and we are the only real professional union symphony orchestra. It's a big responsibility, a big commitment. And just imagine in history, right? 2,000 years ago in Rome, they were speaking Latin. And of course from that evolved the language, the Italian language, which is, and many other, Roman languages. But Latin would have been today totally forgotten if people would not keep teaching it in school. And think about our medical words, without Latin. And this is pretty much the same thing here. We have a treasure in our hands. We have the responsibility to preserve music that was written 200, 300 years ago, 400 years ago. And if we don't do that, if the professional institute will not carry it from one generation to the next one, we will lose that. So now we are not committed only to Beethoven and Brahms and Bach and all the big B's. We are also committed to American music and to contemporary music. In fact, you caught us today in this talk where we just performed a world premiere of an American composer lives in our almost neighborhood. And what a joy it is that we can provide this young composer a stage to perform. And I always think about something that today is so cruel to even think of. Did you know that Franz Schubert, wrote 9 symphonies? He never heard any of his symphonies. It was never performed in his time. Years later, when he died, people found the music, and it's now starting. 2 years ago, we had Chicago Symphony the same week with the Israel Philharmonic in our town, playing both Schubert's 9th Symphony, the Great Symphony. The composer himself didn't hear it. But Santa Barbara audience heard it twice with some of the best orchestra in the world within a week. And it's our responsibility to make sure that this injustice will not happen. And it's a huge, huge responsibility.
Well, and it's wonderful music. And we know, and we see around the world, and we see in our community, generations of people love classical symphonic music. And so and there's such a rich connection to this music. I know everybody who's watching this video and who supports the symphony knows what that excitement is like in the concert hall. And we want more people to be able to experience that and fall in love with it too.
Totally right. And we are talking about, people ask me, how do you program? What are parameters? There's only one parameter for me. It's actually 2. It has to be written for an orchestra or with acoustic instrument. And the second parameter has to be good music. It's ageless. I don't care where the composer comes from, what year she was born. It has to be good. It has to be well written for an orchestra. These are the 2 parameters that we really are are trying to move forward with in mind when we offer our audience good music. And so the 5 years program, it's much more beyond, okay, it will be this symphony of Beethoven, or it will be this American piece, or this. The 5 years, as I see it, is how can we get access to the community? How could the community have a free access to see, and a free access, I don't talk about financially. This means that they can just witness it. It would be something that they could come, take the kids, go in the park and hear the symphony. So, we are talking about in year 2, bringing back the free 4th of July concert, a patriotic concert.
And everyone in the community loves that.
Exactly. And also develop this local patriotism towards the art in our community. I think we're an important part of the community, artistically wise. And I want every child that grows up here to have the opportunity to go once a year to the Granada and just be stunned and humble when you see these beautiful walls. And I know every child cannot be not emotional when they come and see this beauty and hear this beautiful sound. This is something we should offer. This should be part of the rights that every citizen, every child that grows up here would know and develop this sense, oh, that's my orchestra. So we want them to be part of this journey at early age. Other projects that I'm looking at in year 3 and 4 would offer the community an opportunity to witness some of the greatest artists of our time. Normally, they come to town 2 hours before the performance. They give a recital, play chamber music, or play with an orchestra, and then half an hour after the concert, they may be hitting their way towards Los Angeles, San Francisco. If we're lucky, they sleep over one night in Santa Barbara. But my interest is to bring such artists for a longer period, and then offer a recital, play chamber music with our musicians, leading to a concerto appearance with our symphony. But in between, share this huge talent and words experience with our students. We have now a huge pipeline from, early age and elementary school up to high schools, the Westmont College. So offer this large scale of students the opportunity to meet something like that this personality could work with them, could coach them, and maybe have a event with the community, a Q&A, where these artists could share their own experience, how they made it. And I want to share just one story now. A few years ago, we had Lang Lang coming to town, and that was a huge event. Lang Lang at that time was really in its prime. All orchestra in the world wanted him. I mean, and if he came here, that means he had to cancel Paris or Sydney, or I don't know what. So it was a huge honor for us. One of the most beautiful things that came out of it, he brought with him the family with whom they shared the apartment back in China. And I don't know how many people know, but in those days, typical family in China would not have their own kitchen and their own restroom. They would share that. So it was a condo of different rooms, and then there was like a common kitchen and common restroom and something. And he brought the family that used to share with them the kitchen back in China to stay here with him in a hotel. And that this reunion was just such a beautiful thing. And I think just sharing it and telling us, this is how I grew up. What a sacrifice I made to be what I'm now, one of the most prominent pianists of our time. So, engagements in the community, interview with the local TV, the local radio, make a mini festival of these artists. We can do that if we plan a long time ahead, if we have the financial base to secure something like that. These artists are booked years ahead. If we are working, ahead of time, we can secure something like that. So there are all kind of things, from recording, sharing with the world some of our initiatives to generate new music, right? We're partnering with other organizations, and sometimes on our own, we commissioned new pieces. This is also a financial, of course, investment, but this is something that we will be able to share with the entire world. Very often it's written in the score dedicated to the Santa Barbara Symphony, commissioned by the Santa Barbara Symphony, etc. So it's something that we can be proud of sharing beyond our community. So there are a lot of good ideas in these 5 years framework. And as Kathryn and you both mentioned, it's so wonderful to have the opportunity to plan it.
Well, and yes, and so many of these ideas are not only strengthening our connection to our community here locally, but things like doing recordings expand our reputation and our brand globally. That's how we found that out with the video concerts that we've been doing this season. Is we have something like 15 countries represented in the viewership. So it's really about building our global reputation as a world-class orchestra, we're kind of a well-kept secret, unfortunately, and that's not at all what we want to be. We want to be known, and we're part of the artistic fabric of Santa Barbara. We're a key, vital component of the artistic culture here in Santa Barbara, and the whole world should know about it.
And you know, the new era allows us to do so. You know, it was just so nice to see when we, before Gilles Zapap concert, we put just one video on social media, and to see the hundreds of viewers in Europe and Far East, and comments in French and comments from Ireland. That's so beautiful. And I think finally we can share our secret, because normally we would not be able to do that beyond the community. The new technology and the time allows us to do that.
So, Kathryn, this is how do we engage our partners in this? This is the time to talk about what Crescendo means, the strategic initiative that this is, how our friends and our key supporters are going to help us not only build this financial, strengthen the financial foundation of the organization, but also then point us in the direction of being able to grow and have this wonderful global artistic vision brought to life that Nir has mapped out. Oh, you're on mute, Kathryn.
Thank you. I think you just said it. You know, I mean, I cannot think of anything more important or anything that, I mean, this is it. This having 5-year pledges from our most committed and visionary supporters in the community is the path forward. As we've said, we can no longer, or we're choosing to no longer hamper the artistic vision by only working 12 months at a time. So 5-year budgeting, 5-year fundraising, and the foundation that everything else will be built upon, and when we're thinking about finances, is this Crescendo program, where people are making commitments like Nir, Kathryn, and Janet have 5-year commitments, 5-year pledges of support. Rebecca, you can maybe talk about all of the different benefits, but in a nutshell, this is going to give Nir and I the ability to sit around the table, hopefully no longer soon by Zoom, and map out and figure out how to make all of these things possible. I also have to say that this group of people who I am now getting to meet and know, I mean, we're going to have fun. We will gather together. Nir will be, sharing his ideas. This is a behind the scenes group sometimes. This is a, what do you think about this? Or, oh my gosh, Nir just got a call from so-and-so. Can we make this possible? Not tomorrow, but in year 4 or 5. And let's figure out, because I guess the undercurrent also, Rebecca, is that part of this new chapter is fiscal responsibility. So we want to do many, many things, but we have to make sure that we can afford it. And again, that will, having the multi-year framework will allow it. So I cannot wait till our first convening, hopefully in person, of this Crescendo group. We already, I should say this, we just launched it. We already have, I don't know how many founding members so far, but I do know we have 100% of our board members have signed up, have joined us in this, and have made 5-year pledges. And we also have some extraordinary individuals that have already and early adopters, right? They've already seen the path forward and they've already made their 5-year commitments. I think we've already secured about $350,000 in however, 4 weeks. And our goal is for year one to raise, so this year, this fiscal year, to bring that $350,000 up to $500,000. And by the time, over the course of the 5 years, the goal for this foundational support would be about 1/3 of our total expenses. About 1/3 of our budget would come from these foundational multi-year pledges, which would cover about 1/3 of our expenses.
Yeah, so let me just clarify one point there. So what we're in year one of this 5-year strategic framework and of the Crescendo program. And each year we are asking Crescendo members to pledge a minimum amount each year that they'll contribute. And so right now already we have pledges starting this year of $350,000 that we will be able to count on each year. So our donors, many have already given their commitments for year one, and then in year 2, 3, 4, and 5, they will give that same amount each year. So that's our starting point. And that has been, 500,000 is our goal for year one, and we're already seeing a lot of momentum in those commitments, those pledges.
And I want to say something. As much as I enjoy you talking about, the dollars amount and what it means and percentage wise toward the budget, etc. I think, Kathryn said something very interesting. She joined this journey because she knows she can make a difference. And each one that joins this program can make a difference. And that's the one thing that this is an investment in our community. Don't think that when you just, pay for something with a symphony that's benefits only a musician or only the symphony. This is really a direct and indirect investment and in the community. And our mission is to enrich the community, but it's so much more than just play a piece or entertain in a concert. It's more than just the educating. It's more than preserving the art of the past. It's really about making sure we do our part in making Santa Barbara really a better place. And each of these donations will directly affect that. And I think it's a big investment. What kind of society we want, what kind of a community we want, what kind of possibilities we want to give the children who were born in our community. And this is something that I think we're all in agreement that is so important.
Yes. And so the nuts and the bolts, a couple of things I also want to emphasize is, and this maybe goes back to Kathryn's comment about our pre-existing condition, part of this framework is as an operational structure as well that allows us to build a reserve, a financial reserve, so that we have a rainy day fund when something happens, like a leaky roof or a broken pipe, and we are able to then keep the operations going, and we're able to layer on these new and interesting things. And so Kathryn's operational structure means that we stay a very lean and mean operating machine, and we invest as much money as we can in the artistic vision. So it's about putting as much money as we can and as much investment back into the programs, into the community, not into the organization. So it's a lot of work for us, but it's so exciting and invigorating when we know we're making such a strong impact. There are several levels of Crescendo that are based on a minimum of $2,500 a year commitment on up. As high as you want to go, we'll support you. The diamond level is $100,000 a year commitment, and we have a diamond level supporter and member at this juncture, one of our first members. So this gives us, again, this insight every year that we know we're starting with a strong financial foundation. So to join Crescendo is signing a pledge. It's saying, I will commit to this minimum amount each year for the next 5 years. And then we invoice you at the time when it's convenient for you to give. So we'll work on your schedule. But that also gives us this insight as to not only the amount of money that we have, but the cash flow, so that we can manage our operations based on how we see the money, the donations coming in based on what's convenient for both of us. So we have a pledge form that's very simple. And so really the way to join is to give me a call or have a conversation with one of us, with Kathryn, with Nir, with Janet Garufas, our board chair. We'll be happy to talk to you. Visit our website for more information. We have the best website name in the world. It's thesymphony.org. That's our website, thesymphony.org. And there's information on Crescendo. My email and my phone number is there as well. And it's in this email that you're receiving with this video. So we're very easy to contact. My number is 805-898-0107. So please give me a call if you want to. I feel like this is a PBS infomercial, a pledge break. Flashing 800 number on the screen. Yeah. But we're, as you can see, we have a lot of enthusiasm for the symphony, for the community, for classical music, for our patrons here. This is a wonderful organization, and we hope you can join us on the Crescendo adventure. So thank you, Nir. Thank you, Kathryn. And we will be looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.